On this beautiful day, we have intimate conversations with Professor of Psychiatry, Dr. Agnes Bueno. We call her Dr. Wow. And of course, if you have just caught our program, Dr. Wow, Wow means woman of the world, woman of wisdom. And now we are featuring Dr. Agnes's Caged Heart. Okay, ito na nga ang cage start. So, very apt. I love the accent that you're in the black background and all of a sudden the red just pops out. But I can see that there is a heart that is caged right before your
Right,
bosom.
right. This was given as a gift because he knows that I design necklaces. So I designed it to be a pendant, but it's a Swarovski crystal, and
Uh-huh.
these are also crystals. So this is Kate's heart.
Yeah.
One of
So
my hobbies, and they're not for sale. The problem is sometimes they think it's plastic, but they're not. You know why? Because sometimes they give me gifts na plastic. I don't wear plastic, di ba?
only
So, yan.
toothbrush plastic. No, but
Anyway, yeah.
so I think creativity is really part of your life, no? So when have you
Yes, I,
started?
I had a passion for it before, pero I don't do it anymore. So, ang dami ko ng collection. So, ang nangyayari, sometimes I give it as a gift na lang to people that I feel babagayan. Kasi hindi pwedeng isuot to ng mga ibang tao eh. Hindi bagay.
When you say hobby and years, what are we talking about? Like how many years? So how much? How
Oh,
many? How many?
for
Yeah, have you
for
collected?
quite a bit, you're talking about when I was, well, a segment of my life. Kasi segmental ang life ko eh, compartmentalized. When I got introduced to the beauty of necklaces, no? Yan yung may kinuwento ako sa iyo na part of my life na may nagtanong, do you want that? So, nung naano ko, and then may gifts na ako ng mga pwede kong gawing pendant, wow, that started me passionately designing my own necklaces. So,
But are you were you are you hoarding necklaces?
hoarding?
Yes.
Collection ang tawag doon, Jake. Ano ka ba?
O sige. Oh,
Collection
okay, collection.
na na mga semi-precious stones, antique beads na collection ko, whenever I travel, I always go to the flea markets. So yun, and then I sit down and design a necklace. See?
Yeah.
Tapos
Nako,
magagawa ko rin, pero ako
ipapublicize
mag-design.
natin na napakadami mong necklace diyan. Baka ma-Kim Kardashian ka kasi, when she
Eh,
announced,
hindi na hindi naman
that, what
hindi
happened
hindi
was that,
hindi naman siya ganun ka precious na mga diamonds or something. Mixed ano yan eh, mixed it can be an antique bead, like a chevron bead, and then I mix it with crystal. Yung mga ganun. Basta design ko talaga yon. So,
nice.
I,
Maybe,
I, I, I
maybe
like
you
doing
should,
this.
give us the pleasure of when you exhibit your creative jewelry.
Yes, there was one time I exhibited my designs. Pero naman, people, someone said to me, Oy, parang gusto ko yan, this, ano. So, ang sabi ko, there was a time na talaga mataray ako. Sabi ko, ay, hindi ba bagay yan sa'yo? Gawan kita ng iba. So, nasa personality din ng tao ang magwe-wear ng necklace ko. For
Yeah.
someone who's young, it has to be a little bit tiny, cutesy kind of things. Pero kung adult woman, depende sa personality niya, di ba?
Diyos ko,
So,
pamana mo na yan. Ang dami-dami mo siguro dyan. Isang kwarto na.
hindi naman, medyo nabibigatan na lang ako dun sa bag kasi one time nagbakasyon si Celeste, sabi niya, Manang, patingin naman ng mga ano mo, dinedesign mo. So, nagulat ako nung pagbuhat ko nung kinalalagyan na maleta. Hindi ko na mabuhat.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
so it was fun for them to sukat-sukat nila. Eh, syempre, gustong-gusto nila. So, sabi ko, hayaan nyo. Antayin nyo ako mamatay. Siguro, sa inyo na lahat yan.
I mean, it seems to be like most, especially the ones who listen to us, because in the line of your necklace, di ba, caged heart, or parang oppressed or suppressed ba? What happens when you cage your heart? That means it's a heart that has never experienced or probably has been too sheltered. What happens when you have a caged heart?
You know what, Jake? There are so many meanings to it. Kasi hindi ba dito sa life na to, we search for meaning, not happiness. You'll just be frustrated because happiness is momentary. It's not something you pursue. Meaning is what you pursue in life, right? So ang daming ibig sabihin nito.
Hmm.
To me, it means that someone can actually cage my heart or capture my heart.
Oh, okay.
Di ba?
Ah, ah,
And
ah.
it's akin to being owned, and it's more like some kind of a little bit on the kinky side. Like it would be better to me if somebody said, putting on my necklace and says to me, would you be my love? Parang ganun. Hindi yung yung engagement na forever ka ng nakatali na. So this can also mean a caged slave heart. A slave heart.
I remember
Or a
it.
sexual slave, something like
Iba
that.
na yan. Kasi
So
I remember.
mga fantasies na yan, no? Going to the more sophisticated form of love. So it's just between the two of you. You are the only ones who know what it means, right? Ang karamihan sing-sing na parang nakaano ka na, ina-announce mo sa mundo na hindi ka na pwedeng kausapin, hindi ka na pwedeng makipag-usap. Ayoko nung ganun. Parang ang gusto ko, ganito, necklace.
Statement.
It can also mean, itong papatay ko sa'yo, papatayin kita nito. I'm going to choke you. So it's a choker, It's a choker because, again, if you push sex to the extreme, some would enhance their sexual desire if they choke, no? So may mga namamatay na nagse-sex kasi gusto nila i-choke sila eh. So medyo na yun, Jake, baka medyo inosente ka doon.
No, you know what? Actually, there was this. I want to share something with you, and I hope you can hear me clearly because I saw a portion of an episode that I'm following, and it was loosely discussed, about orgasm and pleasure, pleasure and pain, no? So I think the kid was explaining, or there was a discussion between pleasure and pain. Kunyari, di ba, meron sa ating mga statues, the statues of that you see in museums, most women are depicted yung parang orgasmic pose with their slightly opened mouth, and the eyes are closed. But for example, yung ating sinasabing pieta, 'di ba? Yung pieta is the 'di ba is the the Virgin Mary or the Mother of Jesus
Cradling.
cradling the dead, the cadaver of her son, and then but you can see that I'm not sure if I'm correct, but there's a little bit of like you can feel her pain. And most women, there was a discussion because yun na nga, na parang interpretation to ng lalaki, no, that women suffer or women have this, and at the same time it's the same depiction when they're having, you know, orgasmic experience. But it's this, when you see the same picture
Frame.
or frame, how do you know which one is pain and what is pleasurable?
There's no way of telling. They're the same. The same. You know, if you if you freeze a woman in ecstatic orgasmic pleasure, it's the same as someone who's in pain. Exactly the same.
Really?
Yes.
Pero iba yung ano nun sa loob. Maybe sa panglabas lang.
Sa panglabas lang, kasi talagang makukontort talaga yung physicality mo because of the intensity of the emotion, whether it's ecstatic or pain.
Aha.
Parehas na parehas yan. So if you want to know if someone is in pain, just look at the face.
Yeah.
Kasi bihirang nakikita yung orgasmic na woman, di ba? Unless you take a video.
I think na
while,
ano din yan, yun na nga, one of the discussion, it was a very intelligent discussion actually, because it's also depicted in pornography with the, you know, the women's orgasmic state. And at the same time, it's an interpretation daw of again of a man. Tama ba? Ano ba talaga ang point ang ano ng babae? What is it? Tell me. What do you think?
about
Like for example
about
nga.
the facial
Oo.
contortions.
Yes.
There's no way of differentiating the two unless you are in that situation, right?
Correct.
I mean, meaning if you're just looking at the frame or the picture, the facial, you know, if you cut it here, kasi syempre, if you take the whole thing, you know, she's in ecstatic state. Or if she is having her legs cut off, it's the same expression.
But you know what? By the way, since we're still on the same topic, death looks like that too. I mean, if you've seen photos of death, people who have died, like Che Guevara's last photo, with this, you know, eyes rolling, or you know, I don't know what, and then your mouth open, and like it's a submission of some sort.
Yes. It's almost the same. You know?
Yeah.
So,
Napunta tayo sa death, no? Pero actually, kasi it's some sort of, I guess, whether it's pain or ecstatic state, or orgasmic, or you know, your last breath, which is, it's all about the submission to the state. Is that,
it's all about the intensity of the experience.
I see. Yeah.
The physical expression of intensity or the passion of an experience, you know. If you look even at Jesus Christ himself, you know, yung the passion of his death, you know. Parang ganun din, in agony. But then, you know, it depends on the context, no? The
Correct.
context of it. But the phase is the same. You know, there's no way of differentiating them at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so those are the limitations perhaps of the human expression.
I have a question. So when for example, there is a demand of there, for example, amongst our listeners or our followers, I seem to feel that generally they want a discussion regarding, you know, for example, inhibition, something that's forbidden. Why would, you know, followers of your program, for example, like intimate conversation, because does intimacy denote uh, something forbidden or something dark. That's why the demand is more, gearing towards the in during gearing towards the dark or the unexpressed. Why is that?
I think it's more about prohibitions, things that are forbidden. It really started with religious orthodoxies, Kasi, syempre, in the beginning of time, wala namang masyadong consciousness about which is, the shame component of it is the one that's the origin of things that are forbidden. And usually, sex is the thing, the best example of something that's forbidden. And, you're not allowed to participate in it or even to transgress in that compartment because Jake, what I teach most of the time with my patients is the capacity to compartmentalize their lives. So you do not just have sex in the middle of the street, for example. So it somehow offends people kasi na-program na rin yung ano nila na yung mga ganyan, you're not supposed to show it off.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the between the two of you. That's why it's intimate.
Mm.
So parang itong intimate conversation nga na ito, parang kumbaga parang nag-eavesdrop lang yung mga listeners natin kasi usually hindi nila tinatackle or pinag-uusapan yung mga ganyan. So if you're having sex, for example, it's in a very private space. And then to me, it's some kind of a playground. So hindi pwedeng yung mga tinatawag na quickie, ganyan. Parang I feel offended kasi parang ginagamit lang yung babae. So that is my position. No? That's my posturing. That's my positioning in this world is I feel that should somehow stop by educating people. No? Not to kasi parating male-oriented yung mga even sex, parang
Bakit ba ang narrative nga?
male-oriented.
So, ang tanong ko kasi, I mean, honestly, parang lahat yata ng mga binasang libro natin, point of view or narrative ng isang punto ng lalaki. Tama
Yun na
ba?
nga, di ba? Yun ang parati kong sinasabi na everything is programmed towards the maleness of it all. Even in sex, parang male-oriented. Hindi nila, they don't touch on how it is for the woman, Like in one of our conversations, you said something like, well, perhaps the men should be stimulated to want to stimulate the woman of his desire. Karamihan ng lalaki, penis-oriented lang sila. Kasi kung ano man yung babae, whatever, that's what I feel offended about because as I was saying in our last conversations that the woman is really a very sexual desirable being, and I feel that should be acknowledged, that should be respected and not to be it's very offensive when men connect the sexuality of a woman into a derogatory way. So parang in many ways yung mga lalaki sasabihin nakakalalaki ka pare ah. So ang babae naman nakakababae ka yata pare ah. Parang
Ano ibig sabihin
magiging
nun?
maton ako.
What does that
Kasi
even mean?
yung mga maton na ganyan na, oh my God, if I'm listening to the conversations of men, parang
It's very cringy, no? It's very
parang
yeah.
yung babae, hindi ba sabi natin nun, kung in our culture, pag sinabing malandi, parang ang sama-sama niyang babae. So anong gusto ng mga lalaki? Parang estatwa yung babae, hindi sexual, hindi So para sasabihin, they will also say something like, hindi kita ginagalaw kasi nire-respeto kita eh. So parang insulto yun sa babae rin, no? Di ba? Hindi ba niya alam na desirous din yung babae na to him ha? Kasi hindi ba sabi ko isa lang talaga, isa ka lang, isang lalaki lang. So hindi rin dapat nagsiselo sa mga lalaki kasi isa lang talaga ang nasa puso ng isang babae na na okay na babae, di ba? Hindi yung Diyos ko, ewan ko. Anong gusto nila? Frigid. Anong gusto nila? Yung parang estatwa lang, gagano lang. Tapos, yun na nga ang ayaw ko, yung ginagamit yung babae. I, I really am so offended with that. Tapos, yung mga kalalakihan na medyo ganyan, nako, I don't want to have anything to do with them. Kasi, ang magandang lalaki, ina-acknowledge niya na yung babae pwede siyang magustuhan at ma-desire and all that. Kasi ganyan lahat ang supplications ng mga patients ko na babae, no? So that's why I say, oh my God, this is, something has got to change that.
No, I mean, yung passage of time, nakikita natin yung idealism nung miski nung the 80s wasn't far away. I mean, when you really think about it, it's just uh, what 30 or 30 years ago, was it the 80s?
Oh,
Or not 40 years ago?
mga
40.
20, mga 80s, 90s. Oh, mga 30 years, di ba?
Oh, so during that time, it was ideal, for example, because people are following the Netflix version of The Crown, the story of the monarch, no, the English monarch, and now they're in season 4. They have the story of Diana, but you can tell, the idealism was that they wanted, I think, for my understanding, the monarch wanted somebody that's, a virginal princess, which had been passed on, is in the form of Diana, and the match was sort of ideal because the story goes that the Charles was already had fallen in love with somebody else, but with another woman, with a married woman like Camilla. But if you go by that standard in the 80s, and you want to protect the monarch and you want to show that it's stable, you have to present a union that is fresh and ideal, no? And obviously the story goes that that's not the ideal story. I mean, it doesn't mean that it's ideal because the cracks will show when the premise or the intention of the marriage is that, right? And then but people were also, I think humanly wanting the marriage to work, meaning the whole community or the church or the people around them, but it didn't work because that's not how life is in reality. But I think my take is that there's so much. I think the world has changed from the 80s to the 21st century, to the world we live in now. But sometimes yung mga cracks nung old construct, which I always repeat, no, lumalabas pa rin because you know, of the trauma or the experience of the past that seem to show patterns, you know, on our pathway. Do you believe in patterns?
Patterns. Hindi ba life is all about patterns? Everything, the form, the shape. That's life. You can,
Parang
pwede
science, no?
namang, and what?
Parang science. Kasi pattern, baka
Hindi,
physics.
parang art.
Ah,
Hindi rin,
okay.
it's more art than science.
Oh, okay. Baka combination kasi, there's some things that, I mean, you may think that it's the same, but
Have you
sometimes
ever wondered, karamihan in fives ang ang nature. May pattern talaga.
Fives? What do you mean?
Fives ang leaves, ang flower,
Ah, okay.
five
Five
petals,
fingers.
five,
Okay.
five ang fingers, five, so there's something about the number five. It's so, I'm interested in finding out why. Parang, parang ganyan, meron talagang stampa talaga ang life at ang mundo, di ba? There's a pattern to it. There's a rhythm to it. There's a there's a rhyme to it. Hindi siya chaotic. Chaos is never, I don't think, we will all survive in chaos. There's got to be some kind of order,
Hmm.
order and pattern, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
That's why we're
well,
interested,
it's
when we,
parang it's been designed to have those patterns.
yeah. I think there's innate, when we see pattern or, something that we can recognize. Diba yung human mind kasi when you see a pattern, you want to make sense of it.
Kasi yung mga dogs and cats, meron silang mga pilikmata eh. So, bakit sila meron ding pilikmata?
For the dust.
Parang yeah. So, evolution ba yan or what? So, madami yan na components and it depends on the person what would interest him
Pag
or
wala
her.
silang pag wala silang mga pilikmata, yung mga dust na kasi mahilig sila sa mga soil, diretso na may konting protection, no? I mean, it's maybe the evolution of, you know, protection for the eyeball or something.
Tapos, bakit lima din? Basta, I don't know. It's one of, like when I'm designing my necklaces, hindi pwedeng 4, kailangan 5. Parang gano'n. Parang, I don't know. It's
nga.
fascinating for me, parang hindi siya kompleto pag walang panlima.
Funny. Well, in reality, if you have that, kasi kung 4, equal, no? I mean, somehow, in design theory, there's something in the middle and it, sort of like guarded with the 2 fingers. Oh my God, baka sabihin nila, bakit pinag-uusapan nila mga fingers na?
Okay, let's go to the prohibited or the forbidden. That was what we wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
As I was expounding, kasi nag-pre-associate kasi tayo, and this is something the listeners should be able to understand so they can understand us na they have to keep up with the flow kasi merong connectivity yan eh. If they really listen intently, lumalabas.
Nagkataon din because I really love free flow, so wherever I feel like wherever life has thrown me, like if I'm just going to be more personal, like yesterday was a pretty heavy day for me. Heavy day for me is if I have errands or responsibilities that I have to clear for my family, like taking care of my mom, and for example, things that are happening beyond my control towards my family. So that's a big day for me all the time. I take it as a challenge where I should be more cerebral rather than emotional when I speak, because anything, for example, my family, if there's anything about like we have to solve together as a family, being the eldest, which is double-sided yun eh. Being the eldest, sometimes lagi kang naatasan, no? You want to be able to give a clearer perspective. But there's also a part of me that I ask myself, do I really need to do this? Do I really need? So I always tell my brothers in terms, for example, where if we're discussing anything that's urgent, for example, division of property, whether small or big, sabi ko kayo na lang mag-decide, and then whatever. I don't want to be part of the process of yung nanggegera or yung kailangan i-dispute or with anybody, meaning not necessarily with my family, but dispute is something that I've done that all my life, and I sort of like just want to run away from it. Is that normal? Normal yun, di ba?
To a point, yes, but you might tend to just, just give it up or throw it aside because you don't want to be bothered. And you can choose to persevere with it if there is something you can still do. But if you reach a point wherein, nada, wala na talaga akong magagawa, that's when you just say, I'm done. Diba? But
Yeah.
there's no harm in trying your best
Wala namang ano,
to
I think,
tackle any situation.
yeah.
Kasi that's also the meaning of being alive, is to be able to tackle certain things. But again, I say those are problems of living. When you encounter those things, if you are uh, built, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Hindi conflicted, or you'll just say, kayo na lang, I'm done. Nakakainis na. Nakakainis na to get involved with this shit.
Yeah, yeah.
Parang ganon, no? So, you cannot just do that right away also. Kasi parang you're escaping from certain, maybe, contribution to the solution of the problem. But if you are not being recognized, then perhaps that's the part wherein you'll just say, okay. And it's so easy to do that.
No, I think yes, I agree with you. The problem is not being recognized, but I think there was a time when I tried to, if you grow up with an absent father for most of your teenage years, so you become the father of your siblings, and then there comes a point you are not really a good father, so you give it up. So at the end, when you're older, you want to support it in other ways. Like for example, if they just needed like finances, whatever, or an advice, I can be there. But I can't go through like disputes. I can't deal with disputes. I need to like stay away from it, from my own sanity. Because I get affected there, because pag family matters, you really get affected, right?
Yeah, it also depends, Jake, whether or not they acknowledge you to be the one to contribute to solve the problem or what. Because in the old days, they defer or they refer to the oldest brother to make the decision for the family kasi they recognize him as the one who should. See? Pero ngayong mga in recent years, siguro hindi na ganon. Para nang you know, para nang hindi magkakapatid. Hindi na siya
Mm-mm.
organized.
Walang hierarchy.
Wala nang hierarchy wala na yun eh. Tinapon na nila. So kanya-kanya. Kasi in the old days talagang ganun eh. I still witness that with my parents, recognized sila as the eldest na mga, my dad was the
Well,
eldest.
there's a certain humility into saying that, okay, it is not authoritarian and we're all equal. So as member of the group, where not because I'm the eldest, I choose to be a player, or I choose to sit down. That's a choice, or to sit,
Eh,
diba?
yes, it can be your choice, but then they won't, if they don't recognize it, then yan na naman yung mga samaan ng loob, yung mga ganyan-ganyan na ang
No, yun
dami.
na nga. That's why I said, in other ways, I give my support, but doesn't mean that I want to go through. Kasi minsan kasi yung mga decision na ganyan ng pamilya, parang it's like going to war. Decisions of, selling something, or decisions about death, decisions about a lot of things. For me, it's like you have to be fully armored.
Oo
Kasi
nga.
kung hindi ka
Yes.
armored, bigla na lang, why am I so affected? You know? Like, I'm sure you feel that, you know? Kasi pag
Mhm.
hindi naman armored na parang walled up. What I mean by armored is like, you need to protect yourself in able to be more uh, productive or just so you can see the problem clearer. Because when you're in the middle of the storm, I bet you don't see anything.
Oh yes. Oh yes. 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 Yeah. You can choose to just be outside the circle and
Oh.
observe and see, and then you make your own decision regardless of the circle or the group.
Iba
Diba?
talaga,
So,
ang lumalabas, yun yung unconscious siguro. No? Di ba we discussed that last week, which was kind of
oo nga,
interesting.
alam mo ba yung unconscious na yan, nakahapon ay yun ang anniversary ng interment ng dad ko. Kasi natatandaan ko kasi the reason na bigla akong naalala kasi Bonifacio Day. Bonifacio ang kanyang first name.
Oh my goodness.
It's weird kasi we kept talking about death and I kept talking about Papa. Eh yung pala anniversary ng kanyang
O, tinan mo,
death.
yun na nga, maganda nga
So that's
nakakatawa.
the unconscious.
Oo, kasi ito, every time na lumalabas yung pamilya, yun talaga yung nasa utak ko, bigla na lang lumalabas uli. Diba? It's so funny. I didn't,
Yes, kasi you're trying to sort it out in, it's there in your unconscious. So kung meron kang unresolved na issues about it, mayat may lalabas yan. Pero kung medyo wala na, parang settled na, wala na masyado. Naging unconscious na nga, hindi ko naalala na ano pala na on second thought, I said, oh, ngayon pala yung anniversary ng interment ni Papa kasi minarkahan ko na Bonifacio
Bonifacio
Day.
Day. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. So, it's in my subconscious,
Yeah.
unconscious mind
Yeah.
na hindi ako aware na ganun pala. So, yun ang mga sinasabi ko, in our previous conversations, pagka tinutuhog yon like a necklace, it
Yes.
makes sense what we're talking about. Others might not be into it kasi, sanay sila sa mga didactics, yung mga lecture na, ganun lang. Etong ginagawa natin, which to me is some kind of experimental kasi bagong form of teaching ito in my mind. That's why I tapped you. Kasi you seem to have that, that capability to understand, without you knowing it. There are so many things that you say that I just laugh kasi you're to the point. You're on point. On point.
Wow! How very,
Oo.
naku-compliment ako. Thank you.
Oo,
No,
kasi
no,
ganun ka eh.
yeah, I
Ganun ka
really,
talaga. Bihira ang ganyan eh. I seldom encounter someone like you.
mm, mm,
So,
mm.
yun. So, ako naman kasi parang spontaneous lang. Pero hindi, may mga historical, data na nakaano. So, dahil sa pandemic, and then ganyan-ganyan, walang masyadong magawa, ganyan-ganyan, bigla kang sumulpot sa buhay ko again. So, biglang naano ko rin na, well, maybe I can do something while, habang
Yeah,
pandemic. Kasi one of the consultants said to me, don't give up naman, Agnes, on teaching. Kasi he's someone na, I respect. Even as you comment sa yung mga posts na yan, kasi nagpo-post din siya, you are already teaching people. And I know how effective you are as a teacher. So parang, wow, sabi ko, nagkaroon ako ng idea what to do.
yeah. It's
So when,
true.
when
I
you
like,
pop out,
yeah.
sabi ko, wow, ito bagay na bagay dito sa gusto kong gagawin.
Oo. Pero kasi din
Oh,
ang sabi ko din kasi parang this form of you're saying this is a new or maybe it's an old form of teaching but I
I think it's a
see
new form eh.
for me this is the way of learning. In fact, syempre, I've had issues with education, my own personal issues with education. And sabi ko, how can you spark because I've been a teacher as well, not academically, but what I'm saying, how do you spark the new, how do you impart or how do you spark someone to learn, or when you have this relationship, a teacher and this is seemed to be my a pattern in my life. I learn a lot from teachers and then I pass on what I learn. But how do you keep it going to so that people will be interested, especially the younger generation? And this for me is one way, because it's not a lecture. Once it becomes a lecture, believe it or not, my mind
Shuts down.
cuts down, no? Agree na lang ako na agree. Yes, correct, correct. Diba?
Yeah, haven't you noticed that maski saan mo ako dalhin, susunod ako sa iyo. Hindi
Mm-mm.
ako ang nag-determine. I follow you. If you haven't noticed that,
No, I do. That's what
yeah,
it's easy
I
to
don't.
maneuver, but I always want to say that I hope that we're still going on the thread, no? But I think improvising, what I've learned from this is really that it's almost like life, because in life we have to learn how to improvise, or do ad libs, because we hindi siya sarado, 'di ba? Hindi siya
Mhm.
set. Ang problema kasi pag set, like a lot of people are probably saying, but hindi sila set sa structure nila, because I also enjoy this whole, well, this is what we talked about. We can rehash last week, but it could move somewhere else. I love exploring that our unconscious mind comes up, or unconscious thoughts come up, because these are the issues of the day.
Yun na nga
Diba?
sinasabi ko noon, di ba, na 99% of what you do is dictated by your unconscious mind.
Yeah.
Parang, parang it's like that. So how can you teach that other than this, right? There's no way. They don't teach these things in school at all. Puros mga didactics. So
Pero may
natututo ka
curriculum
na
ka,
yung,
di ba? When you're teaching, when you were teaching, give us a background. Do you make, do you follow a curriculum? What's
yeah,
your, what's,
I followed the curriculum. There's a structure at the background,
okay.
but I present it in a manner na kung ano lang yung extemporaneous, spontaneous na, that's my style of teaching kasi. So, nakakonekta dun sa topic.
Oh, nice.
Pero hindi
Oo.
didactic. Kasi pwede nilang basahin sa libro. Why should I be talking or repeating? Kasi yung mga lectures, di ba? Parang nilift lang nila sa mga books, tapos ipa-PowerPoint, tapos babasahin nung nag-attend. Ba't hindi na lang nila basahin dun sa bahay, di ba? So,
Pag-usapan
as a
natin.
lecturer, siguro in demand ako dati, I do it extemporaneously, pero meron akong sa mind ko, yung outline. Yan.
Mas
Mahirap gawin
importante,
yun, ha? You
mahirap
have
yun
to really
kasi,
be knowledgeable about the subject matter to be able to do that. If
yes.
you're a neophyte, you just lift things from the book, you mouth it out as if yun ang words mo. Hindi ako ganun eh. When I say it, I really know it. Yung topic, no?
I
So maski
love
saan
it.
mo ako dalhin,
Buti,
magbalibaligtad man ng estudyante, i-debate man ako or whatever, I know what I'm talking about, but
yeah.
I'm not going to read a PowerPoint para basahin mo rin. Ano yun? So, eh, siguro kaya nga wala talaga, hindi talaga ako mag-fit kasi, every time I attend conventions, Sus Maria Jose, nakakaantok talaga. So,
No,
the
it's the same
doctors
thing.
are not really listening to it.
Yeah, in a smaller scale, for example, if you're talking about children, no, for example, when I was teaching, summer classes for tweens or teenage between, they're 10 years old to when they turn into teenagers. I have three classes, so during summer in early 2009. Oh, basta 9 years ko yung ginawa. Pero napansin ko, no, kasi yung kung gagawa ka ng curriculum, eto yung bibigay sa'yo ng book. na nababasahin ng mga bata. And usually, some teachers probably would just say, okay, take this home, this is your assignment, memorize it, and then uh, uh, ang tawag dito, memorize it and then give us extemporaneous ang tawag dito, elocution the next day. O, di ba? Parang kikwento mo yung, one day, ganyan, 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 ganyan. So the problem there that I saw was that, not naman problem, but they all gonna sound alike because whoever taught them to speak or to memorize the story of the Three Little Pigs, for example, uh, they will sound like their mother or their yaya.
Mhm.
Di ba? Once upon a time, there were three little pigs. Basta kung ano yung sound ng intonation ng yaya or mother, that will be the way the kid will speak.
Mhm.
But to break that, I thought this was going to be interesting. If yes, they bring home the book, understand the story, memorize it if they want, but on the next day, they have to tell the story, but the way they understood it. Does that make sense? Meaning the kids have to be able to tell the story of the three little pigs in their own words.
Yes.
Kasi if it's their own words, walang accent, walang intonation, walang ikikwento lang nila, which is more natural, right? The kid or the reader will be able to find their own voice. No, so I think that's a good way of learning because you're just gonna ask. So tell me about the story of the three little pigs. Okay, how did it start? Like a real conversation, not like one day, once upon a
Once upon a
time,
time.
diba? Kasi it's very like it's yes, it is an elocution. It's not, but that's not the way we speak. It's not natural. So for me, that's one of the ways to break it. When you want your kid to have their own voice, let them discover how to tell a story. Let them use their own words, whether it's grammatically wrong or napaka-importante din yan kasi they need to find all their own, own little words or their own small vocabulary to create a story, which is, if you were able to create an interesting sentence and create a picture with that sentence or paint a picture with that sentence, that's enough.
Mhm.
Diba? You don't have to memorize the whole bit. Diba?
Right. And that's a very good way of testing what they learned, di ba? Hindi yung
Correct.
test na paper and pencil kind of test.
Oo. In a way, ganun din yung, that's why, in a way, parang na pwedeng pattern, obviously, bibigatin yung mga, psychology or psychiatry, but in a way, it's, that way of teaching, being extemporaneous and being, free spirit, free talk, free flow, but with understanding the foundation so that you're very so you know what you're talking about is also
Mhm.
very important, obviously. Di
Mhm.
ba?
Yes, yes.
Well, parang naantok ka doon sa sinabi ko. Kasi sabi ko once in upon a time.
Oh, lalabay yun eh. Parang lalabay.
Oo nga.
Di ba?
Oo nga.
Lullaby, kasi you read the fairy tale book, to put a little boy or girl to sleep.
Oo.
So
Yeah.
parang lullaby.
Kasi nga
It
yung mga
lulls you. It
yung mga
lulls
bata
you.
kasi Dr. Agnes, yung mga bata ngayon when they because I am in performing arts, the kids that I used to teach, they talk a similar way, na it sounds a little bit like yung parang batibot or the way yung parang kasi ate ganito eh. It's like I'm not sure where it's the intonation eh. So I'm not sure kung saan napipick up yung ganon. Tapos sabi ko, ba't pare-parehas? Parang hindi totoong salita yan. Parang it's so, what I'm saying? I don't know. I'm still yet to figure out, why that happened in the recent years.
Kids kasi are so ano parang plastic pa yung
Or
brain nila.
sponge. Pero sponge, no? They
Malleable pa. Oo.
oh,
So
yeah, yeah,
kung ano
yeah.
yung naririnig, kung ano yung nakikita, yun na yun. They can, flow with it. Hindi
Right.
pa hindi pa naka-fix, hindi pa sila rigid. So yeah, that's the world of kids.
Yeah.
So as a kid, if you've been prohibited a lot, going back to what you said,
Ang galing mo na ngayon mag-segue. Tama
parang
yan,
ano
tama
yan
yan, tama yan. Sige.
yan ang source pagka child ka pa lang at may mga prohibitions, castigations. That's where you become so inhibited. It's out
Oh,
of
yun.
fear of being.
I think
Oh,
if Excel is listening to us, my classmate, because he's very much interested in exploring, the inhibitions and the prohibitions. I think maybe not as an advice, but maybe it's a good thing to explore what happened during our time when we were in really grade school. Because if we've been stunted or we've been, clamped with certain things, maybe, I mean, I could speak about that too of my experience, okay, just so you know that I'm not just talking about you. I remember, my father found me to be doing something very creative one afternoon, and this creativity did not sit well with him. So he took me out of the house and medyo dramatic. He took me out of the house and locked me out, no? And
oh,
but when I think about it and I go back to that time, I said, oh, he really didn't understand the creativity flow that was happening with me. And I have to look at it that way to understand how it affected me. Or else, magagalit ako, di ba? Kasi dun ka magle-let go. For me, I have to let go. Okay, wow, ang inisip ko nun, sabi ko, napakaliit ng understanding niya on creativity to be able to judge that, kunyari lang, di ba, yung mga ganon. Hindi naman kunyari, nangyari talaga sa akin yun. But for me to make sense of it, I had to say, oh yeah, it's the same thing with discrimination. When people discriminate upon you, for example, when you're in a foreign land, and then you open your eyes, for example, a lot of Asians, I think, they experience this when they get out of the Philippines. Sometimes there are Asian slurs like, ching chong chong chang. If they can't distinguish you from being Chinese or Filipino or Thai, because we all come from Asia, they just go ching chong chong chang or Mongol, whatever. And you could be angry about that, and then you can also look at them and see, I wonder why they are doing that. And then you can also come up with something. You can also judge because they judge you with your physical, and then you can see, okay, maybe he's really having a hard time. I mean, I feel better when I say that, because rather than be angry and be like depleted, or all of a sudden, is there, di ba, parang people will, kung ma-insecure ka, bigla ka na lang, what, parang, what's wrong with me? Di ba? Instead of going through that process, I just look at that person and say, okay, yeah, well, yeah, okay, that's, may magagawa ka rin ng sarili mong judgment doon sa tao, and maiintindihan mo na bakit siya ganun. I think that's what I do, so that I don't get angry. I also check that, see them and, reflect the mirror. Tumahimik ka na lang dyan.
well, see, that's another point wherein you can test your capability. I guess people who are like that, set in their viewpoints about a certain race or
Mhm.
culture, you have to. It's good to have an opportunity to show them that you are at par with them.
Mm.
Hindi yung tatahimik ka na lang, yuyuko ka na lang, tapos sige, kung ano-ano sasabihin sa'yo. Kasi sometimes I see this in Facebook, no, yung mga very rude na trato. So, you have to, it's good to create an opportunity to let them see you as a human being, no? Before kasi parang blind ako sa ganyanan noon. Akala ko lahat ng tao pare-pareho. So when I was in the States, there was a time when I was buying a pair of shoes and the sales girl was of a different color, more like white, Tapos sabi, I was wondering, bakit ayaw niya akong i-assist? Hindi ko alam yung mga ganyan na, So, until it hit me na, oops, mukha yatang to
Yeah.
I hate to use those politically correct.
Yeah.
Yun ganun. Kasi I'm consciously trying to get out of that compartment or that sphere.
Yeah.
So, you know what I did? In a very gracious, subtle way. Kasi na-hit na sa akin na gano'n. So I said, well, is there someone else who can assist me? So, hindi pa rin kumikibo. So sabi ko, can I please talk to your supervisor? Maybe he can assist me. Yung ganon. So, slowly pinakita ko sa kanila that they shouldn't be like that with me. Parang ganon.
Yeah.
So, I showed them who I am. So I said kasi medyo expensive yung shoes. Alam mo naman ako may pagkaano ako. Siguro, akala nila, well, I don't know. I don't want to surmise or presume anything. So I said, the supervisor assisted me. Katulad din niya ng kulay, no? So, afterwards, I said, okay, I'll take it. It fits me pretty well. So, sabi ko, how do you, can I pay in check? Ganun ako. So sabi niya, oh sure ma'am, ganun siya. So nakita niya doon sa checkbook ko nakalagay yung pangalan ko tapos may MD. In a split second, biglang nag-iba yung kanyang mukha with me. Very, na siya, gracious na siya and halos halikan na siguro yung paa ko. Yung ganun ba? So without saying anything, you can assert yourself.
Yeah.
In situations like that. Ang problema kasi na nakita ko doon, wala mga nakayuko lang, mga doon, mga mga kababayan natin, hindi sila nagsasalita,
No. You need to. You need to. Yeah.
So you really need to.
Pero there's some instance also na parang, for example, with what happened to me with then, this is a funny. That's why nung time na yun din kasi parang I said I looked at the person who was doing it and I even realized that they were not even from there and they're also immigrants. So I sort of felt like okay, this has been done to them and now they're doing it to others. I mean, so it's also a very wide perspective of being socially and conscious about why these things happen. You never really experience that kung hindi ka din lumalabas kasi if you experience that outside the country, but your state of mind and your state of consciousness should be really aware that you are, you should be aware of every race and color, and I think that's this was a good discussion I had with a colleague of mine. He's a deacon and also a Broadway actor, which will actually published yesterday because this will be published. Our conversation will be Thursday, so that means it was published. And he said that it's about being aware. It's not. He was saying that you can't say you are colorblind. You have to be aware that that's a black man, There, he's the one. You need to say yes. I am aware and acknowledge you. You are part of the whole world. We are all, we are all humans. So parang ganyan. Kasi once you say, oh, I don't really say, I don't see color. I don't see you as a parang that's when the trouble happened. No, you need to see us, sabi niya. You need to see us because we are here. We are of black. We're black and we good. He said that, in a funny way. And I thought he had what better way to I think the way he explained it was very, very effective, and I totally understood where he's coming from. Ayun na, napakadami na natin na pag-usapan.
Oo
And
nga,
I
yes.
there's always so many things to talk about when I'm with you. But whenever I look at the clock, it's always 1 hour and a half. And I'm always
you
so
want you don't want to prolong it too much kasi yung attention kasi it can only be sustained in a limited time.
oo nga. And I know that even when I watch TED Talk or or TED Talks or any person I admire and follow a program, I want gusto ko mabitin ako. I want to be like, "Oh, I want more. Wait." Rather than, "Oops, okay, that's enough for the day."
That's enough. I'm drunk. I'm drunk by your
Oo.
by
But
you and all that.
oo.
Did you receive the Henry Mancini tune of the theme song of the
Yes, of
Sunflower?
course.
Ganda,
It's
no?
it's 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 yes. That's why I'm telling you.
Love is storm and wind and tide. All the tears your heart can hold.
Ay,
Da 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 da. Da 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 da.
you know what?
Ganda,
You,
no?
kayo ba yun? Kayo bang the sisters sing?
Pardon?
The Tres Marias sing?
What's that?
Rowena, you and Celeste? Have you ever sung together?
No, not really. Isa-isa lang. Isa-isa lang.
Ah, well, it's never too late, as they say.
Well, ako naman kasi ano lang yan eh. Wala lang. Ganyan-ganyan lang. But I
No,
know how to, I know
I
how to
know
sing.
I know where you're coming from, Agnes, Doctora, because the Filipinos are so talented when they sing, and so like I'm not, when you can carry a tune and you can tell a story, that's all
Mm.
that matters, di ba? Ay, nanggagaling naman yung una mong ano dito galing sa chest, so that's a very nice, rich alto voice, di ba? So you should let's
Wala
make
akong training. I don't have any
You
training
don't
in
need a
singing.
training. You just sing from your heart. Oo, enough of those mga training. Just be yourself. let your let your history or your experience bring or interpret the song. Oh, diba? That's more important. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
well, here we go. We're
Okay.
we're at the end of our show again, and thank you again for joining us, our dear listeners. And I know that you've been supporting. We're actually on our eighth episode, believe it or not. Can you lucky number
Oh.
eight?
Oh.
So we're on infinity. So we're just looking forward for like meaningful conversations. And yes, we adhere to like free flowing. We love improvising. We love ad libbing. But you can help us with our show and direct us somewhere where you want to discuss like and topics that you may want to discuss. Just give us a direct message, or uh, always at the end, and there's always a link here of Dr. Agnes Bueno, so you can email her or send her a link in her Dr. Wow fan page. How about that? Okay. What's the name of your fan page?
No. I thought tapos na tayo.
Hindi. What's the name
Oo,
of your fan page?
meron akong Dr. Wow fan page.
That's why.
Meron. Pero I
Invi-
don't know if anyone is interested in that.
Why? No, no. This is
Kasi,
where they can give you direct messages. That's the
oh
call to
really?
action. Yes.
I didn't know that.
So find the
Wala.
Dr. Wow fan page and give us direct messages. Give Dr. Agnes direct messages on topics you may want to explore. That's the call to action. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.